The red dust swirled around Captain Daho Park's boots as he watched the last Vesperian transport disappear into the blood-colored clouds above. His fists clenched at his sides, knuckles white with tension. 5,000 human colonists stood behind him, their faces a mixture of disbelief and growing anger. The mining equipment around them suddenly seemed much older, more worn than it had appeared just hours ago. "Sir," his second-in-command, my son Lee, touched his shoulder gently. "The people need to hear from you." Daho turned to face the crowd, their eyes fixed on him, seeking answers he wasn't sure he had. Children clutched their parents' hands, and elderly workers leaned on their tools. The wind carried whispers of fear through the gathered masses. "They stripped the medical bay," my son reported quietly. "Took all but the basic supplies. The food stores." She paused, swallowing hard. 3 months, maybe 4 if we ration carefully. Daho nodded, his weathered face masking the cold fury building inside him. The Vesperians had planned this all along. They'd used human labor to establish the mining operation, to build the infrastructure, and now they'd simply discarded them like broken tools. He climbed onto a nearby cargo container, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent crowd. "My fellow colonists, I won't lie to you. We've been betrayed." Murmurs rippled through the gathering. "But we are not finished. Look around you. We built this outpost. Every building, every mine shaft, every power generator. They were our hands that made this place work." A child started crying somewhere in the crowd. Daho saw an older woman comfort the little one, her own eyes glistening with unused tears. He continued, his voice growing stronger. "We have the skills. We have the determination. And most importantly, we have each other." From the corner of his eye, he saw the colony's chief engineer, Tan Min Rio, push through the crowd. The man's face was streaked with grease, but his eyes blazed with purpose. "Captain, the main computer core. They tried to wipe it, but I saved backups. We still have access to the mining protocols and base schematics." This was the first piece of good news. Daho allowed himself a small smile. "See, already we fight back. Yes, they left us here to die. But they made a mistake. They underestimated human resilience." Security Chief Jinnah Cho stepped forward, her uniform dust-covered, but her bearing military straight. "Sir, I've done a preliminary inventory. They left the automated defense turrets. Probably thought they'd need too much manpower to dismantle." The crowd's mood began to shift. Where there had been despair, Daho saw sparks of determination ignite. He raised his voice again. "We need to organize. Section leaders, gather your people. Check your equipment. Count your supplies. We'll meet in the main hall in 2 hours." As the crowd began to disperse, my son handed him a tablet. "Sir, long-range communications are down, but the local network is intact. We're getting reports from all the mining sites. The Vesperians didn't bother with the deeper equipment. Too much trouble to retrieve, I guess." Daho studied the information scrolling across the screen. The Vesperians had been thorough in their betrayal, but their arrogance had left gaps. They'd abandoned equipment they considered too primitive to bother with, forgetting that humans had built their first civilizations with far less. In his office, Daho found his personal logs wiped clean, replaced with a single message: "Contract terminated." He deleted it with a savage jab of his finger. Out his window, he could see people moving with purpose now, checking systems, gathering resources. The initial shock was wearing off, replaced by the grim determination he'd seen so many times in human history. The medical team, led by Dr. Sujin Kwan, had already begun inventorying their remaining supplies and setting up an emergency protocol. The hydroponics staff were assessing their crop status, calculating yields and growth rates. Even the children were helping, carrying messages between groups and sorting supplies. As the sun began to set, turning the sky an even deeper red, Daho stood in the main hall. Section leaders reported their findings. The situation was grim, but not hopeless. They had shelter, basic medical supplies, and the means to produce food. The mines themselves were fully functional, and the automated systems still responded to their commands. They thought this would be our tomb, he told the assembled leaders. Instead, we'll make it our fortress, our home. And someday, he looked each of them in the eye, seeing the same fire reflected back. Someday, we'll make them regret thinking they could simply throw us away. Later that night, as the colony's lights burned bright against the alien darkness, Daho sat in his office writing the new log entry. Day 1 after abandonment, he typed. The Vesperians left us to die. They don't understand that humans have survived worse. We've lived through ice ages with nothing but stone tools. We've crossed oceans in wooden boats. We've climbed from caves to skyscrapers. He paused, looking out at his people working through the night. They think they'd stranded us here, but they've just given us a reason to prove them wrong. Jai-Yun-Li wiped sweat from her forehead as she crawled through another dusty maintenance tunnel. 3 months of searching had led her team to this hidden complex buried deep within the asteroid belt. Her headlamp illuminated strange markings on the walls, symbols that didn't match any known Vesperian writing they'd seen before. Found anything? Captain Park's voice crackled through her communicator. The signal was weak this deep in the rock, but clear enough. Something different here, sir, she replied, pausing to examine a sealed doorway. The architecture isn't like their other facilities. Her scanner beeped softly, detecting power signatures behind the wall. After weeks of finding nothing but dead ends and empty rooms, her heart quickened at the reading. She pressed her hand against the door's access panel, not expecting anything to happen. The colony's engineers had tried countless times to breach Vesperian security systems, always failing. The panel lit up with a soft blue glow. Jai-Yun froze, hardly daring to breathe. The door slid open with a gentle hiss, revealing a vast chamber beyond. As she stepped through, lights began activating automatically, illuminating rows of sleek shapes covered in protective sheets. Captain, she whispered into her communicator, you need to see this. 20 minutes later, Captain Park and Chief Engineer Tom Min stood beside her, staring at the holographic displays floating in the air before them. Jai-Yun's hands shook as she navigated through the alien interface, which responded to her touch as if it had been designed for human use. It's impossible, Tom Min muttered, adjusting his glasses. These systems should be locked down tight. The Vesperians never share their technology. Jai-Yun pulled up another diagnostic screen. Look at this. She pointed to a scrolling data stream. The security protocols are accepting our biometric data. It's not just accepting it. It's treating us like authorized users. Captain Park stepped closer to one of the covered shapes. With careful movements, he pulled back the protective sheet, revealing the sleek hull of a Vesperian scout ship. Unlike the massive cargo vessels that had abandoned them, this was a smaller, more agile craft, perfect for learning to fly. How many ships are in here? He asked, his voice tight with controlled excitement. Jai-Yun consulted the inventory display. 12 scout ships, 4 medium transports, and she paused, double-checking the reading. What looks like a partially assembled cruiser in the main construction bay. And we can access everything. Park's question carried the weight of their colony's future. Jai-Yun nodded, pulling up more systems. The manufacturing facilities, maintenance protocols, even the flight training simulations. It's all here, all unlocked. She turned to face her captain, eyes bright with possibility. Sir, this isn't just a shipyard. It's a complete naval facility. Tom Min was already examining the nearest scout ship's engine housing. The technology level is beyond anything they showed us. These aren't their cast-offs. These are advanced models. Jai-Yun's fingers flew over the holographic controls, diving deeper into the facility's database. There's something else, she said slowly. These ships, they're not exactly Vesperian design. The architecture is different, older somehow, like they were built by someone else. Captain Park's communicator chirped. Sir, my son's voice came through. The search teams found more sealed chambers. They're opening for us too. We've got warehouses full of supplies, ammunition stores, even food preservation units. Jai Yun watched her captain's face as he processed this information. The past 3 months have been hard on everyone. Food rationing, constant equipment failures, the struggle to maintain hope. But now, start downloading everything, Park ordered. Every technical manual, every specification. I want our people in the simulators as soon as possible. He turned to Tommen. How long until we could get one of these scouts operational? The chief engineer patted the ship's hull. With the automated systems helping us? A week, maybe less. These were meant to be maintained by a minimal crew. Jai Yun pulled up the ship's crew requirements. Sir, they're designed for human-sized pilots. The controls, the seat configurations, everything is built to our proportions. The implications hung in the air between them. This facility hadn't been abandoned by accident. Someone, long ago, had built it for humans to find. Keep this quiet for now, Park ordered. We'll tell the colony once we're sure we can make this work. I don't want to give them false hope. As her captain and the chief engineer discussed logistics, Jai Yun continued exploring the database. The genetic locks hadn't malfunctioned. They'd been programmed to recognize human DNA. Someone had given them a gift, a way to fight back. She smiled as she initiated the power-up sequence for the manufacturing systems. The Vesperians had left them to die on a forgotten outpost, never imagining they'd find this place, never imagining that humans would not only survive but find a way to reach the stars on their own terms. Welcome, authorized users, the facility's main computer announced in perfect English. Ship construction protocols are now online. Please select your desired configuration. Jai Yun looked at Captain Park, who nodded slowly. Start with the scout ships, he said. It's time we learn to fly. The prototype vessel's engines hummed with a sound that made Taiwan Kim's teeth tingle. He stood in the control room, watching as status indicators flickered from red to green across the holographic displays. 2 months of preparation had led to this moment. All systems check complete. Hae-Nul Song reported from the pilot's seat. Her hands rested lightly on the modified controls. A blend of Vesperian technology and human design that had taken weeks to perfect. Ready for launch sequence. Taiwan nodded, trying to keep his voice steady. Begin power-up procedure. Nice and slow. The ship they'd named Phoenix represented their best work. They'd stripped down 3 different scout ships to understand how they worked, rebuilt them, and finally created this hybrid vessel that combined the best of both worlds. Human intuition married to alien technology. Power levels at 30%, Hae-Nul called out. The deck plates vibrated gently beneath their feet. Artificial gravity stable. Hull integrity at optimal levels. In the observation room above, Captain Park watched with the colony's leadership team. They'd kept the project secret from most of the colonists, not wanting to raise hopes until they were sure it would work. Now, success or failure would echo through their entire community. 50% power, Hae-Nul continued. Warning lights flashed across her console, but she adjusted the controls with practiced ease. Minor power fluctuation in the secondary systems. Compensating. Taiwan checked his own readings. They'd run this sequence 100 times in simulation, but reality always held surprises. Looking good. Take us up to 70%. The ship's hull creaked as ancient anti-gravity systems engage. Slowly, carefully, the Phoenix lifted 10 centimeters off its berth. Hae-Nul's face showed intense concentration as she balanced the power outputs. We have lift, she announced, a small smile playing at her lips, all systems responding within acceptable parameters. Taiwan allowed himself to breathe. The hard part was still to come. Take us up to 1 meter. Watch the lateral stability. The Phoenix rose smoothly, holding position with only minimal drift. In the observation room, someone started clapping. Taiwan ignored it, focusing on his instruments. They couldn't afford celebration yet. Ready for horizontal movement, Hae-Nul reported. Permission to begin forward thrust. Tai-1 checked the safety fields around the test area. Granted. 1 meter per second, no faster. The ship glided forward, its movement so smooth they might have been floating on water. Newell guided it through a simple figure-8 pattern, testing the maneuvering thrusters. She responds better than the simulations, she said, genuine joy in her voice. The modified controls make all the difference. They'd replaced the Vesperian neural interface with a system more suited to human pilots, physical controls enhanced by holographic displays. It had been Jayem's idea, combining human instinct with alien precision. Taking us up to full power, Newell announced. The engine's hum deepened to a confident roar. All systems green. Tai-1 watched as she guided the ship through increasingly complex maneuvers. Each successful turn, each perfect stop, represented countless hours of work. The Vesperians had never intended humans to fly these ships, but human determination had found a way. "Sir," Newell called out, requesting permission for a high-speed run. Tai-1 checked with Captain Park, who gave a single nod. Granted. Show us what she can do. The Phoenix shot forward, accelerating faster than any human ship they'd ever seen. Newell's modifications to the inertial dampeners kept them from feeling the G-forces that should have crushed them. She guided the ship through a series of tight spirals, proving that their hybrid creation could match any Vesperian vessel. Beginning descent sequence, she announced several minutes later. The landing was as smooth as the launch, the Phoenix settling onto its berth with barely a sound. As the engines powered down, Captain Park entered the control room. "Well done, both of you." He looked at the ship with pride. "How soon can we begin training other pilots?" "The simulators are ready," Newell replied. "And now we have real flight data to program into them. Give me 2 weeks with each pilot candidate." Tai-1 was already reviewing the flight data. "We'll need to make some minor adjustments to the power distribution, but nothing major. She's ready for regular operations." The captain nodded slowly. "Begin crew selection immediately. I want 3 full flight teams trained within the month." He paused, looking out at the other ships waiting in their berths. The Vesperians thought they left us helpless. Time to show them how wrong they were. Newell ran her hand along the ship's control panel. "Sir, should we tell the rest of the colony now?" "Yes," Park decided. "They've earned some hope. Tomorrow, we'll show them that we've not only survived, we've found our way back to the stars." As they left the control room, Tai-1 took a final look at the Phoenix. They'd named it well. Like the mythical bird, humanity had risen from the ashes of abandonment. And soon, very soon, they would soar. In his private log that night, he wrote, "First test flight successful. The Phoenix exceeds all expectations. Human ingenuity has turned alien rejection into opportunity. We were meant to die here. Instead, we learned to fly their ships better than they ever could." Captain Park stood on the bridge of the Remember, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the countdown timer. Around him, his crew worked with focused precision at their stations. 8 months of training had led to this moment, their first strike against the Vesperians. "All ships report ready," Su Minyun announced from her communication station. Their small fleet was positioned perfectly, hidden behind an asteroid field. "Jump coordinates locked," Newell reported from the helm. She'd earned the right to pilot their flagship after proving herself the best pilot in the colony. Targeting the supply convoy's exit point, intelligence gathered from their hidden sensor network had revealed a pattern in Vesperian shipping routes. This convoy would be carrying critical supplies, protected by only minimal escorts. The perfect target for their first operation. "All hands, battle stations," Park ordered. Warning lights pulsed throughout the ship as crew members made final preparations. "Execute jump in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Space twisted around them as 8 ships, the Remember and 7 modified scout vessels, made their first combat jump. They emerged precisely where planned, directly behind the Vesperian convoy. 3 cargo ships, 2 escorts, Tactical Officer Ji-Min Lee reported crisply. They haven't raised shields yet. Element of surprise achieved. Park allowed himself a small smile. Communications. Transmit our message. Su Min's fingers danced across her console. Her voice, calm and clear, broadcast across all frequencies. Remember the colonists you abandoned. We've learned to fly. The Vesperian ships reacted slowly, confusion evident in their delayed response. Their escorts began to turn, but the human fleet had already moved into attack formation. Target their engines, Park commanded. Disable, don't destroy. We need those supplies. The Remember's weapons, modified Vesperian technology, enhanced by human innovation, fired with devastating accuracy. The escort ship's engines flickered and died, leaving them drifting helplessly. Scout Group Alpha moved to secure the cargo vessels, Park ordered. 4 of their smaller ships broke formation, surrounding the massive transports. Group Beta maintained containment on the escorts. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, months of drills paying off. They'd studied Vesperian tactics, learned their weaknesses, and now exploited them perfectly. Sir, Su Min called out, we're receiving a transmission from the convoy commander. Put it through. A Vesperian face appeared on the main screen, mandibles twitching in what they'd learned was a sign of agitation. This is impossible. It clicked in their language. Humans cannot operate our vessels. Clearly, Park replied, letting his satisfaction show. You were wrong about many things. The Remember sensors detected energy buildups in the cargo ships. They're trying to activate their emergency jump drives, Ji-Min reported. Not today, Park said calmly. Execute containment protocol. Fields of disrupting energy sprang up around the Vesperian vessels, another human modification to their technology. The cargo ship's jump drives powered down, trapped by forces their designers had never anticipated. All targets secured, Hae-Nul announced. No casualties on either side. Park nodded in approval. This wasn't about revenge. It was about survival and justice. Begin docking procedures. Engineer Choi, prepare your teams for cargo transfer. The operation proceeded smoothly. They'd rehearsed this countless times in simulation, but reality proved even better. The Vesperian crews, faced with humans wielding their own technology with expertise, offered no resistance. Message from the colony, Su Min reported. They're ready to receive the supplies. As his crews efficiently transferred cargo from the Vesperian holds, Park addressed their prisoners through the comm system. You will be released unharmed once we finish. Tell your leaders this. We are no longer helpless colonists waiting to die. We have mastered your technology, improved it, made it our own. The Remember's holds filled with precious supplies. Medicine, food, technological components, resources they'd been denied when they were abandoned. All cargo secured, Ji-Min reported. Teams returning to ships. Park studied the Vesperian vessels on his display. Disengage docking clamps. Prepare for jump. Sir, Su Min cut in. The convoy commander is requesting to speak again. The Vesperian's voice carried a new tone, something like respect mixed with fear. Who are you? We are the abandoned, Park replied, and we have learned to survive. Remember that. The Remember and its escort ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving the disabled Vesperian vessels behind. They'd chosen their target carefully. By the time help arrived, the human fleet would be safely hidden again. In his captain's log later, Park wrote, First combat operation successful. 0 casualties, maximum gain. The Vesperians thought they could leave us to die on a forgotten world. Instead, they gave us the tools and motivation to become something they never expected, equals. Commander Jin Woo Quan walked through the bustling halls of what they now called Freedom Station, carved from the asteroid that had given them their first ships. The successful raid 6 months ago had changed everything. Word had spread among other abandoned human colonies, bringing a steady stream of refugees and volunteers to their cause. Status report, he called out as he entered the command center. Screens lined the walls, showing construction progress, fleet movements, and training operations. Dr. Yu-Jin Ri looked up from her workstation, where she was analyzing new modifications to Vesperian systems. 3 more ships completed final testing this morning. The improvements to the shield generators are exceeding expectations. Jin-Woo watched as another transport arrived, carrying survivors from a mining outpost in the Centauri sector. Each new arrival brought skills, determination, and often valuable intelligence about Vesperian operations. How many does that make now? He asked, checking the fleet roster. 23 combat-ready vessels, Yu-Jin replied, plus the Remember and 5 support ships. She pulled up a schematic of their latest design. The new hybrid drives are ready for installation. We've managed to increase efficiency by 30%. The command center hummed with activity as operators coordinated shipping routes, monitored Vesperian movements, and maintained contact with their growing network of allies. What had started as one colony's fight for survival had become something much larger. The training programs, Jin-Woo asked, watching a group of new recruits file past the window. Full capacity. Hey Newell's combat simulation program is producing excellent results. These people learn fast. They're motivated. Of course they were motivated, Jin-Woo thought. Every person here had been abandoned, left to die by the Vesperians. Now they had a chance to fight back. A warning light flashed on the main display. Incoming transmission from Scout Group Delta. An operator announced. They'd found another colony. Jin-Woo moved to the communication station. The scout ship's captain appeared on screen, her expression grim but determined. Sir, we've located survivors on mining station K448. The Vesperians pulled out 3 weeks ago. Numbers. About 2,000. They're running low on supplies, but they've managed to keep their systems running. Jin-Woo nodded. Send them the contact protocol. If they accept, dispatch the rescue fleet. They'd developed a careful system for approaching new colonies, proving they were human while maintaining operational security. Yu-Jin joined him, tablet in hand. The new medical bay can handle another 2,000. We've expanded the living quarters in Section 7. The station had grown far beyond its original size, with new chambers and facilities carved into the asteroid's rock. Human engineers had taken Vesperian mining technology and repurposed it, creating spaces that merged the best of both worlds. Commander, another operator called out. Long-range sensors detecting increased Vesperian patrol activity in Sector 4. They're looking for us, Jin-Woo said quietly. Every successful operation makes them more desperate to find our base. Yu-Jin smiled slightly. Let them look. The sensor masks are holding. Besides, they're still thinking like Vesperians. They can't imagine humans operating at this level. A group of engineers hurried past, carrying components for the next generation of hybrid weapons. Every day brought new improvements, new adaptations of alien technology to human needs. The Remember is due back tomorrow, Jin-Woo noted, checking the mission schedule. Captain Park's raid on the research facility was successful. Complete data retrieval, Yu-Jin confirmed. Their weapon designs, shield configurations, everything. Give me a week to analyze it all. Jin-Woo watched the activity around him with pride. Former miners worked alongside engineers, adapting their knowledge of industrial systems to shipbuilding. Medical staff trained newcomers on hybrid healing technology. Every person had a role, a purpose. We're not just surviving anymore, he said. We're building something they never expected. Yu-Jin nodded, already focused on her next project. The Vesperians thought they could use us and throw us away. They gave us the tools to prove them wrong. A cheer went up from the construction bay. Another ship completing its first power-up sequence. Through the viewport, Jin-Woo could see its sleek form, a perfect blend of human design and alien technology. Send word to the other colonies, he ordered. Tell them there's hope. Tell them we're coming for them. As he made his rounds later that day, visiting training centers and construction bays. Jinwoo thought about how far they'd come. From 5,000 abandoned colonists to the heart of a growing resistance. The Vesperians had meant to destroy them. Instead, they created something stronger than they could imagine. In the station's main hall, a banner hung above the entrance. From the abandoned, hope rises. It wasn't just a slogan. It was a promise to every human colony left to die in the coldest space. Help was coming, and with it, the chance to fight back. Captain Park watched as the massive Vesperian battleships turned away, their engines flaring bright against the darkness of space. 1 year of preparation had led to this moment. His fleet of 40 ships, led by the Remember, had just fought the Vesperians to a standstill. All ships report minimal damage, Jai-yun announced from her station, pride evident in her voice. Our shield modifications held better than expected. The battle had been brief but intense. The Vesperians had come expecting to crush what they thought was a small band of pirates. Instead, they'd faced a well-organized fleet using their own technology in ways they'd never imagined. Status of the Vesperian fleet? Park asked, though he could see the answer on his displays. 3 capital ships heavily damaged. 4 escorts disabled, Tactical Officer Minho reported. They're retreating at sublight speed. Their jump drives are offline. Park nodded slowly. They'd won without destroying a single Vesperian vessel, exactly as planned. This wasn't about revenge. It was about recognition. Signal coming in from their flagship, Jai-yun said. They're requesting communication. On screen, the Vesperian fleet commander appeared, its mandibles twitching with what they now recognized as a mix of fear and respect. How is this possible? It demanded. These are our ships, our technology. No, Park replied calmly. These are human ships now. We took what you abandoned and made it better. His fleet held position, their modified weapons still targeted on the Vesperian vessels. The Remember's sleek form led the formation, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. The colonies you abandoned, Park continued, the people you left to die. We found each other. We survived. We learned. And now we're offering you a choice. The Vesperian commander's compound eyes shifted, taking in the tactical displays that showed just how thoroughly they'd been outmaneuvered. Human pilots had flown circles around their ships, using maneuvers the Vesperians had never considered possible. What choice? The commander asked. Recognition, Park said simply. Acknowledge our sovereignty. Grant us official status as an independent species. Or, he let the threat hang unspoken, knowing the Vesperians could see the weapon locks on their ships. Jai-yun worked quietly at her station, monitoring communications between their ships. Every crew member, every fighter, had once been an abandoned colonist. Now they were a united force. You would declare war on the Empire? The Vesperian asked. We don't want war, Park replied. We want what you should have given us from the start. Respect, partnership, equal standing. The Vesperian commander was silent for a long moment, calculating. They could see more human ships arriving from hyperspace, reinforcements from other liberated colonies. Your terms? The commander finally asked. Park had prepared for this moment. First, you will acknowledge all human colonies as sovereign territory. Second, you will provide compensation for the abandoned colonies. Third, you will establish fair trade agreements with our new federation. And in return, peace, Park said simply. The chance to learn from each other. We've already shown you how much humans can improve your technology. Imagine what we could accomplish together. The commander's mandibles clicked rapidly, their version of nervous laughter. You understand this is not a final agreement. The Empire must be consulted. Of course, Park nodded, but you'll take our message to them, along with the sensor logs of this battle. Around him, his crew maintained their stations with professional calm. They'd trained for this, prepared for every possibility. The Remember's engines hummed softly, ready to respond to any threat. We will, "Convey your terms," the Vesperian commander said finally. "You have proven yourselves worthy adversaries." "Not adversaries," Park corrected. "Equals. Remember that." As the Vesperian fleet limped away, Jia-Yun turned to her captain. "They'll be back," she said quietly. "Yes," Park agreed, "but not as conquerors. As negotiators." He looked around at his crew, seeing the same pride and determination in every face. "Send word to all colonies. The first battle is won. Our real work begins now." The Remember led its fleet back to their hidden base, where thousands of former colonists waited for news. They had risen from abandonment to independence, transformed despair into strength. The Vesperians had left them to die among the stars. Instead, they had learned to command them. In his final log entry of the day, Park wrote, "Today we proved that humanity cannot be discarded or forgotten. We took their cast-off technology and forged it into something new. They thought they were leaving us to die. Instead, they gave us the stars."